In 1914, Ella Wheeler Wilcox published a poem that began, "To sin by silence when we should protest makes cowards out of men." Today, as we face our futures over 100 years later, I draw on her wise words to speak to you, above all else, about the dangers of silence. I fully realize the irony of encouraging 900 Harvard MBAs to speak their minds. At first glance, it might seem that for the past 2 years, we've done little else. We've had the privilege of being overeducated by professors and overserved by bartenders, stocking up on prophetic strategies and passport stamps, and even resorting to technical question sheep shots just to get in that one last time. But it is the responsibility of the informed to speak up when we can make a difference. And HBS class of 2017, what a difference we can make. In recent years, we have seen how drastically the share of voices in this country and the world at large have shifted. More people are speaking up, different people are speaking up, and in many more ways. And if we correctly appreciate voice as a form of value, the implications of this shift are staggering. Ever more intertwined economic and political interests affect the societies we live in, the businesses we work in, and the people we love. So whether you're an HKS jointee or a plain old one-degree capitalist without a conscience, we are all beholden to the world around us. As future leaders, we will likely hold positions where our voices will have outsized influence on our surroundings. So, opinions on current events are not optional. Identities will not wait to be formed. We must define and defend ourselves with thoughts and words and expect others around us to do the same. I do not make this plea to belittle quiet as a necessary counterpoint or to demote action as a necessary result, but to admit that, at times, we fail to summon the courage to simply speak. Some might think it's wholly unnecessary to encourage MBAs to speak their minds, or that, like any good consultant, I'm just telling you something you've heard before but with fancier words, and that I'll probably send you an invoice after I've sufficiently worn you down. All forms of payment are accepted, but I prefer claims on the future earnings of anyone in CBCR. But even among so many extroverts, I think there's more here to explore. In fact, this speech itself is an exercise in self-commitment, in holding myself accountable for as long as YouTube and its balanced, thoughtful commenters shall live. Because in my experience, speaking up has not always come naturally. I challenged myself to think through this topic because my struggle with it is both long-held and ongoing. As a gay 15-year-old in the conservative Midwest, silence smothered me. I remember realizing that more than the way I walked or the way I dressed, it was really the way I talked that prompted people to label me. More specifically, it was the way I said the letter S. My S is sibilant, or characterized by a hissing sound. And I thought if I could mask my S, then I could mask myself. So first I tried changing the way I pronounced words. I like sports should be I like sports, which I totally, definitely do. After I very obviously failed at this, I then tried to figure out how I could speak without saying S so much. How to substitute words without that one pesky little letter. For example, instead of "Salutations, section mates, such a strong sweat we're sporting in this surprise summer sun," I might say, "Hi, I'm warm." Needless to say, a brevity did not come easily to me, and neither did hiding my identity. It was not until years later that I realized how much I had been silencing myself. I also realized that the processes of discovering oneself and revealing oneself run parallel. Some of my thoughts didn't crystallize until I pushed myself to say them out loud. But that is not a dynamic unique to me. I didn't want to face confrontation for what I was saying or how I was saying it. Isn't that something we all can relate to? There are ideas inside each of us that should be articulated, both endorsements and oppositions that should be brought forth. And for one reason or another, they aren't. So then why should we fight against the human instinct to protect ourselves? Because as this institution has reminded us time and again, that's what leaders who make a difference in the world do. Those topics we were taught not to discuss at the dinner table, money, politics, religion, well, money, politics, religion, class, color, weakness, wants. This country seems the most divided it's been in any of our lifetimes. And it will stay that way as long as people avoid engaging with other points of view. Now is not the time to shy away from topics that might make us uncomfortable or opinions that might make us unpopular. But of course, there are times when we all do exactly that. Try to think of a time when you didn't stand up for an idea or opinion or a person. Maybe it was yourself. And try to identify exactly why you didn't. The reason might be, like all things when you're cold called and haven't read the case, contextual. But it's probably something far more universal. Fear. There are times we don't speak up for fear of being redundant. Because we think what we believe has already been voiced, that our opinion is the opinion, that the silent majority will carry the day. And many times it does, and we face no consequence. But therein lies the danger. If we all remain silent on topics for which we believe others will speak on our behalf, there will come a day when no one does. There are times when we don't speak up for fear of being inappropriate. Some of us find it easier to raise the counterpoint sitting around a conference room table, others around a dining room table. But whether you're more at home surrounded by reassuring facts and figures, or by friends who sympathize with our exact points of view, we must fight the urge to reserve our voices for the spaces where we feel most comfortable. We cannot separate our lives into personal opinions and professional actions that do not align. We cannot insulate ourselves from the world around us by retreating to a corner office. And there are times where we don't speak up for fear of being wrong, because we're waiting for the perfect data, the perfect moment, the perfect answer. But there is real value in expressing uncertainty. There may not be scribes in every one of our future conference rooms, but in the real world, questions still count for something. And by asking questions, by exposing ourselves in this way, we encourage others to do the same. It is better to engage imperfectly than abstain indefinitely. Now, I could stop here, but let's let that man in the first row doze off for a few more minutes. Oh, that's my dad. Can someone wake him up? Oh, okay, great, thank you. And furthermore, if I were to stop here, my message would be incomplete. This mindset should not prioritize our opinions, leaders' opinions, above anyone else's. Rather, it should set the norm for all. If we value our own voices enough to use them as tools of change, then we must also listen to the voices of others and enable them to do just the same. While it's easy to listen to those who agree with us, some of my most potent memories of classmates speaking up were those who totally shut me down. Remember when that section mate blew up classroom discussion by questioning an assumption the rest of us had taken for granted? Or when someone disagreed with you and actually changed your mind? The great moments in HBS classrooms reveal the empathy of our education. taking the point of view of a protagonist, their personal baggage, professional background, and present challenges, and charting a path forward. But the best moments in the HBS classroom also take advantage of the empathy amongst 90 different perspectives within the classroom. I hope we don't let that lesson leave us once we cross this threshold. We must listen to those who speak up both alongside and against us. We must embrace dissenters, even when it seems inconvenient. We must value the voices of our doubters as much as those of our champions. This is our responsibility not just to ourselves as people, but to our identities as leaders. Listening is good for maintaining perspective. Listening is good to combat consensus, to dispel groupthink, to burst bubbles, be they in financial markets or national politics. Listening is also good if you're an asthma-prone environmentalist climbing Everest with a bunch of section mates still gunning for Baker Scholar. You know, just theoretically. So today, when we gather to celebrate our commencement, to thank all of those who helped us get here, and most importantly, to amass the most Instagram likes of our lives thus far, let's hold ourselves responsible to a new normal for MBAs. No matter what critics might say, regardless of your gender, race, faith, your sibilant S, or the metallic grade of your passport, each of us has the agency to define our life and legacy. HBS class of 2017, I urge you not to sin by silence. Find your voice, share your voice, and welcome the voices of others. There are times when this might be off-brand, but it will certainly keep us on track. Thank you.